Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. We are going to be talking about so many beautiful things this afternoon, and I'm very grateful that you're here. The last two videos that I've gone to record, maybe within the last 2 out of the last 3, the sound is cut out after about 5-6 minutes. It's like when I've been recording them through Facebook, and when I go, like, my battery goes low and it's like I press go away, battery notification, the sound for some reason is cut out. And I was so proud of both of these videos. So I'm like, all right, this is just a test. This is just an opportunity for me to either go lower or go higher. Lower, I was taking as, get mad, get angry, be so like, oh, okay, it's probably like some entities fucking with me, like whatever. Go higher is just like, okay, cool. I had an amazing time filming and recording both of those videos. I know that everything I did there I can do again here, and I'll just make an even better one. That's a positive attitude. And so it's, in every situation we have this beautiful opportunity to go lower or go higher, and it's like, okay, cool, so I'm just going to choose this as an opportunity to create an even better video. And it's a really good test, I think, when something doesn't work out, even when you've done like a really good job of something. It's a really good test of your mindset, whether you're acting like a professional or an amateur, because I think an amateur in that situation would just let that, the anger and the frustration and the victim-y stuff get the better of them. And I've definitely been in that situation before, not like absolutely, but now I feel like okay, cool. I know that, like I said, whatever I've created, I can create it again. I'll just do an even better video this time. And it's also a good test for me to and for you guys to see like how much you love doing something. Because if it's like this, oh, are you kidding me? I have to do that again. It's like, well, why are you doing it? Like, there's a difference between, and actually I'll speak to this right now, there's a difference between feeling resistance towards something that you actually know in your soul that you need to do, and just genuinely not wanting to do something. And the best way to kind of distinguish and determine between the two is, I say now I have this like little kind of thing, and I say to myself, I put whatever I'm about to do at the end of this sentence. Before I was born, my soul and God got together and decided that in this lifetime I would ... Write that down if you need to. Because all of a sudden you have this like frame of reference to be like, okay, either this action, this business, this dream, this like thing that I'm about to do, say, but you have this goal, is either total BS and your ego is just gonna has come out and been like, oh, I just want this. Or you get chills and you get shivers and you're like, oh wow, like yes. And it's been really helpful for me when discerning, in hindsight, to discern when something that I am being quote unquote asked to do is like, whether that's, through like, talked about in our last video, communicating with non-physical beings, and whether, it's just a beautiful way to discern whether what you're being asked to do is coming from something that is in service to your highest good. Because like I said in that last video, if it's good for you, it will feel good. And it will bring you back to a place of like love and peace and trust within yourself. Maybe not initially, because there might be fear around it, but it will ultimately like yield inner peace. Like it will yield more peace for you, more wholeness, a sense of greater like certainty and security within yourself. Anything that's kind of taking you on what feels like a wild goose chase is probably just trying to fuck with you. And you need to be like, we've got to be, this is my latest initiation into all this stuff, is like, you've got to be really discerning about who, like, if you're communicating with non-physical beings and guides, who are you communicating with? Like, it's really important. So so just use your discernment, use your intuition, and practice this. Like, discernment is a gift and it's a skill like anything else. It's not one that I was brought up like, kind of being taught as like this is what discernment is. It was kind of just like, I think, people say like trust your gut and stuff like that, but discernment is so much more than that. And it's one of those things where I really struggled making decisions. One of my biggest challenges has been in this lifetime overcoming this theory, this feeling of like how do you make decisions? How does anyone do this? And I was so scared to make any decisions when I was first leaving school, and like I was terrified. And especially when you leave school, and it's like, especially if you've been in an environment where your ideas and opinions aren't respected, your sovereignty isn't really like fiercely guarded and protected, and you're in all these like codependent enmeshed relationships, all of a sudden you're like released into the wild. I was writing about this today. We don't release animals that have been bred in captivity into the wild, you know, traditionally, I don't think anymore. I mean, did we ever? But like we, you know, humans like have this understanding that, as far as I know, like it's not good for the animal. It's like, well, why do we do that with humans? You know, you breed, terrible word for animals and humans. It sounds like derogatory, but you create, you bring up, you rear a child in was basically captivity. Like you go through 13 years of education, you live in suburbia, you go to the shopping center on the weekends. Like it's a pretty captive, it's not a wild existence. And then all of a sudden you go, here, have the whole wide world. It's like, oh. And so December is one of these gifts that I have come into this lifetime with, but I'm, you know, I'm learning to, I'm developing, and I've had to develop, because like decision making isn't just about like tune into your guides, trust your gut, like ask your higher self. It is, but it's also about strategy, and it's about, you know, using all of the resources at your disposal, not just kind of like, and I'm talking about big decisions here. I'm not just talking about like, you know, which cereal to buy, like whatever, that sort of stuff. But I also am, because the little decisions equal the big decisions. You know, what cereal to buy influences your health because you're eating it pretty much every single day. And so yeah, I think, you know, there's a real culture, especially in kind of spiritual circles, of like, you know, hitting the pendulum and getting the, you know, kinesiology, muscle testing, and, you know, that stuff, there's validity in it, sure. But it's like, I feel like there needs to be more of a conversation around, and for all of us to practice using all of the resources and the tools that we have at our disposal internally. So it's like, it's intuition, yes, but it's also foresight, like practicing looking into the future. And there is a sense of, you know, but when people say like you can't predict the future and you don't know what's going to happen, you can and you do. I mean, I'm not saying that, you know, everything in life is, you know, predetermined and absolutely unexpected things are going to happen, but don't undermine your own ability to be able to predict where you're headed and what's going to happen, and then be able to kind of use that to strategize. Like there are too many women in this world who are kind of walking blind, and men, but like stumbling blindly through this existence, like, oh, I'll just kind of see where I end up, and you know, this and this kind of like wishy-washy attitude. It's like, do you actually know how powerful you are? Do you know these, like, how incredibly resourceful, how many like internal, you know, mechanisms you have for kind of figuring this out and mapping your life? And it's like, if you're disconnected from that, of course life isn't going to be enjoyable and fun to live. Of course you're going to want to check out early. Like when you actually, one of my favorite things that kind of, you know, brought me back from, like, it sparks my joy of living to live and access all of the things that are within me, because like that's what makes living like fun and exciting and like this like strategic game, because, you know, you're planning and you're using like, you know, this muscle and this inner resource and that lesson that you've learned, and you're strategizing, you're journaling about it. You're like, okay, well, I could do this. And it's like, it's not like, I think in the past I've just been like, oh, just, you know, give it up to God, like, you know, it's not, and yes, faith, whatever, it's not, it's more than that. It's so much more than that. It's not empowering. Like you've got to be an active participant, and that's what's enjoyable about it, because then your life is like, it's your life. And I just want to like, yeah, give you like full permission, take ownership, like use the gifts and skills that you have to start like making decisions and strategies, like from the little things to the big things. I find this so exciting, and I find this like so enriching, because it gives me a sense of like empowerment and a sense of control and a sense of like, there's a really cool like thing that happens when, obviously, when you look back at, you know, things that you've created and you're like, oh, I got there because I did X, Y, and Z. And, you know, I think there's so much of this stuff has been like airy fairy floaty up here decision making, and we're just got to ground it in the body of like, this is actually how powerful we are. Like we're so good at this. Like you have everything you need to make decisions about your life, and, you know, use the failures and the things that haven't worked out to inform you. This is like, you know, when people get caught in like things of cycles of going round and round and round the same thing. It's like, well, look back and then use that to inform your decisions. And when, you know, one of the things that makes, you know, this is alchemy, right? Like makes it so much, you know, more wholesome. It's easier to go through difficult situations because you know that at the other side of it, or even in the midst of it, you can mine it for gold so that it can help you move forward in a more aligned and intelligent way. So are you going through interesting, that's, yeah, there you go, interesting circumstances, then you have this perspective of like, okay, cool, so what am I learning from this? Like, all right, so I did that and that didn't work. What does that teach me about this? And it takes you out, yeah, yes, cry, yes, have the failure, have the experience of like getting your ass kicked in the arena, lying on the mat with you, like, you know, near death. But then actually like get out the slow motion replay and start to kind of go piece by piece of like, all right, this happened because of this and this. And don't get too caught up in this, because I've definitely done this, of like using that as just like a obsessive thing of like but then how did this and this and this. And I think it's a little bit, you know, there's probably a balance between like getting out your detective gear and deciphering what happened and how everything kind of fit together and what went wrong where. And then there's also an element of just like, okay, well, maybe I don't understand all of the pieces now, but I can't use that as an excuse to stop me from moving forward. Like I still need to, I've been so mad at God. Like I've had experiences where, even recently, where I was so mad at God and I was so like confused and so just like, what the F life? Like, you said this and this, but ultimately you can't, like, yes, get mad. Yes, have the experience of raging and furying and whatever. But ultimately, like, it all comes down to, and this is what I kind of came back to, is like, do I still trust life? Do I still trust life is good? Do I still trust God is good? Yes. And there is nothing that could happen that could ever make me not believe that anymore. Like, it's a fundamental truth of my existence. And so I'm like, even coming up against those like massive big questions and anger and fury and rage and just being like, but why? What the? I'm like, is this going to make you stop trusting? Is this going to make you stop choosing life? It's like, well, no. Okay, well then keep moving on. And it's just having that really honest, like, come to Jesus moment with yourself, where you're like, all right, there may be some pieces in this that I've left on the table. There's things in this that I don't understand, but I'm not going to let them stop me from ultimately like that, like my faith and my foundation can cop that. And I'll figure it out, you know, like some things I'm like, you know, you can move into the next season while still having questions, and then other seasons and other things happen in the next season of your life where you look back and you're like, oh, that's why that happened, or that makes sense now. Like, that thing just totally like worked itself out because of X, Y, and Z. Like, hindsight is, you know, it's awesome in that. So is foresight. Use your foresight. Use your hindsight. Like, come on. Like, we're incredibly smart creatures, and I think all this stuff about like, you know, just let life happen. Like, yeah, but it just, I feel like we're so much more intelligent than that, and I'm just done, pretending that we're not. We are infinite intelligence incarnate, so we get to make decisions like it. And it's fun. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy it. What else do I want to speak about? I have a speaking gig coming up in 3 weeks, and I have a couple actually coming up in the next couple of weeks, and I'm very much looking forward to it. And I'm going to be practicing over the next couple of days, sharing my story with creativity. So cool how this all unfolded. I messaged this woman, or I heard this kind of nudge or this like voice say to me a couple of weeks before the end of last year, if you knew who you really were, you would be banging down doors asking people to speak. And I was like, oh, okay. Because I've kind of been like fucking around with speaking and not really taking it seriously, even though I know it's a very, very, very big part of my soul's mission and purpose in this lifetime. And so I just pulled my finger out. I was like, all right, cool, let's go. And I started banging on some doors, and I was like, hey, I'm this and I'm this, and I'm pitching myself. And I'm a projector in human design, so we can talk about this, but basically you're supposed to sit back and wait for the invitation according to human design. I have made that mean I still express my interest. I don't need to insert myself where I'm not welcome or wanted, because ew. But I definitely express my interest, and I definitely show up and make myself known. I use that as an excuse in the past to kind of sit back and relax, but I'm like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. So knock, knock, knock. Hello, here I am. This is me. And yeah, and then I reached out to this woman, and she's running this event in the Northern Rivers. It's called Stories That Stir. So I'm going to be speaking on, and of course the next one that she had, she initially didn't have any spots, and then she's messaged me about 2 days before Christmas, and she's like, hey, we're doing it on creativity, will you come? I was like, yes, are you kidding me? It's like, you couldn't, I don't think you could get a topic closer to my heart. Like it's like the core of who I am is creativity. I mean, it is like creative. I don't want to like label myself that. That's very boxy. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. So I'm going to practice sharing my story and making sure that I can succinctly share what it is that I want to share. I feel like there's a real, and I will sum up this video because this is exactly what I'm talking about. There is a place for actually there's not anymore. I was going to say there's a place for long-winded, like 3-hour-long videos. I don't actually think that there is anymore. Maybe there is for some people, and that's exactly what they're here to deliver, but I am working on precision. There is a way to communicate that is effective, powerful, precise, enjoyable. It's not superfluous, it's exacting. It's like playing an instrument. And I'm practicing that form of communication for myself so that I can be the most effective and wholeheartedly powerful communicator that I can possibly be. All right, I'll see you in my next video. Have a beautiful rest of your afternoon.